I am so ready to go here. It's 6 o'clock and I'm pumped. We're going to talk budget. Mr. Laconan's here. All the movers and shakers, we're ready. We have a quorum. I will call roll because I think if anybody's watching this, they need to know who's here. Mr. Dudley is here, Mr. Sims, Mr. Howell, Mr. Beaver, and Mr. Penning. So we have 6 dedicated people here to talk budget tonight. I think, board members, that hopefully you've had some time to look at the budget and know that the last budget we got was right at 111, and I find that to be way too much in what we realistically should send to the commission. I do think there are areas in it that we need to look at and cut, and I think staff needs to look at it as well. And so I want all of you to have an opportunity to ask questions and to see where we are. Doug has sent us some additional information that we'll go over. We asked him for a list of those new positions. Keep in mind that the new positions that central office asked for amounted to about $2.2 million. So it's really hard for me to think about a raise for 1,600 of our employees as opposed to 21 new positions or how many it is. I personally want to take care of our employees. They haven't had a raise of any substance in 2 years. So those are the kind of priorities we need to tell Mr. Laconan as we go forward as to what must be in this budget. Then we know where we need to back things out. Do any of y'all want to start, or do you want me to start asking questions, or do you all have anything to say over there, or you've already cut a bunch of stuff out and we're ready to go?
Yeah, Doug, you want to jump in with the work we did today?
Yes.
All right, thanks.
So, first to clarify, the 21 Battle Creek positions on that list, there's also some other positions in there that are not teachers. So if you add a couple more, you get around 28 on that sheet that I just sent out for the Battle Creek additional positions. And then the very top part are requests for positions that are they don't have a link to Battle Creek, but they are requests that were prioritized, that they were needed from the other departments. So you can see how that sheet's divvied out there, and we get around 52 total positions if you include Battle Creek and that top list. What I would like to talk about is that I had an anticipation that we would take a look at cutting this budget and kind of decipher, and that's something that I can't do arbitrarily without the input of others. You know, they are in place to perform their duties and determine what is least and most important. And so I've been working with Ron earlier today, and also Dr. Marzak. I've got a meeting with Stan and Lisa. So we're taking a look at all of the budgets and also with Carl so that we can find out what we could do with and without. So we've already made some cuts and also discovered some things today. I think we're going to find some savings in our medical insurance. Schiffer and I had worked on it together, and Schiffer found some savings for us there. So I look forward to having a lower budget, but also from this meeting I would like some guidance. We've got 6 different columns there. One is just a difference column, but and one just has just the step raises and the positions we've already been funding for this year. So you can see all of those different columns. I'm just looking for guidance on what you would like to fund out of those columns. What's the school board's goal? That way, when it comes to, because if you apply 3%, a 3% increase to the new position, study, and step change proposal, so that's got 54 positions in it, a study, the salary study, the step change proposal, and then when you hit 3% against that, it's going to cost a lot more than if you hit 3% against just the Battle Creek position column or just the all new positions column. It's just because you're taking 3% and you're bouncing it off a larger number. So, determining whether we're going to move forward with our step change proposal for teachers or with the salary study and also all new positions. I think that's something we can figure out tonight so that we can kind of cut down and see where we can go with those. We've got everybody here, so I'm willing to just listen, really. If there are questions, I'm ready to answer any questions about the budget. And but from right here, looking at our totals, I know the commission wouldn't approve a $111 million budget, especially when you see our corresponding revenues. You know, we hope to get some more from BEP. We have finished our study on the revenues and factored all of those in, and I mean, that's it right there. So, you know, that's a $10 million deficit, and we don't have even anywhere close to that in fund balance come around September of this year. So that's unrealistic. We literally don't have the bank account to approve that. So it's not safe for us to approve that final budget unless we're going to get additional revenue from the commission. So that's just my thoughts, and thank you.
There's several things I'd like to look at, but I want to ask some questions first and let others as well. I looked up the Tennessee Code annotated today about fund balance, and because Williamson County uses their fund balance for all kinds of things, they don't, you know, they keep what they have to, and I'm not saying we should use it all, but what we're doing at Battle Creek is somewhat of a one-time thing because next year the BEP picks up that as well. So I would think we could consider using some fund balance, maybe up to $2 million as income, because that's what's got to match is income and the two things. We've got to be able to show the commission that we have that income. Next year, the BEP will cover all the positions of Battle Creek, so it's not a recurring thing that we'd have to do. I realize from what you said that we don't have $18 million, and it's not, you know, what it appears. But I also think that we need to be cognizant of that the commission has equal problem that we do in having enough revenue. They're looking at a tax increase. We have to bear that burden as well. We've got to tell the taxpayers that, yes, we're going to need some tax money, more tax money for education. So I think it is something to consider, using some fund balance to cover Battle Creek. The other thing that I don't, as much as I know that all the positions you've proposed are important, I think Stan needs his position to help him. We said that when it came up before that needed to be in this budget. I definitely think you need the positions about the behavioral specialist, and we may need more of those. We need one at the alternative school. We need one at Cox. We need it because discipline is what we're hearing over and over and over. So I don't know that 2 is enough, but I do think they need to stay in the budget. I need you all to justify to me what positions need to stay in the budget other than the ones I've just mentioned, because I cannot weigh the teachers, 1,600 employees, telling them that they're not going to get a raise because we're going to hire all these new positions with the central office. I just can't do it. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I just don't think that's fair or right. And so if we have to make cuts, we need to make them there, first of all. And I think you're looking at over $2 million when you have the benefits with it, with all those positions. So I'm sure you're looking at it now, aren't you all? Aren't you all looking at that as to what you? Okay. So if we're going to bring that down a little bit, I'm really confused about, and Doug has tried to explain it to me as well. When I looked at the attendance, and I don't know, is Mr. Lang here? There was a real increase, almost $1 million increase in your department. What is? Let me see if I can find the page. I never can find it. what I'm looking for. Yeah? Well, on your, Mr. Lang, on 130, it's 645 all the way across. Okay. I assume that is stipends.
You said 130?
Yeah, 130. 72, 110, 130. And that's social workers.
Yes.
Okay.
The stipends are 188.
Okay, 188 is 635. And then you have an increase of $300-something. What is that?
First of all, the stipends were underfunded for this year. We also added for the stipends for the well-rounded child of $71,000 in this, and then we also have some increase to address some Title IX coaching issues where some of the sports do not have assistant coaches like other sports do. We did get the well-rounded stipends for the fine arts teachers through Title IV. We put that in here in case we were not able to get that again next school year.
So
we have
that'll come through
applied
Title
for
IV.
it. Yes.
Okay.
We did not find out until about the 1st of October last year. We're hoping to hear sooner. So we can make some adjustments there. But we put that in so that we continue the programs that we established this year so they would not disappear after 1 year.
But you haven't used all the stipends. Your account still has money that for stipends that has not been used, but yet we're increasing it. Are you increasing because you have more coaches?
We are, there are some left, some stipend funds, but as of right now, we're going to be short on stipend funds with the $635,000.
Okay. Sure.
So use of fund balance. We are allowed to use anything over 3% of our single year's expenditures at a point in the year to fund a deficit budget. That's what we can do, but we can't take it past that. So, 3% of this is going to be around $3.5 million. Approximately around there of what we have to have in fund balance at the time, and I'm wanting to have that at least at June 30 because we're going to need even more later on as we run through payroll. So what I can do, and I've made a note to do that, is do a fund balance estimate and take expenditures and do an estimate of where we're going to end up in the latter part of the year in September, and see what that fund balance would possibly dwindle down to, and come up with a figure in which we could use to offset a deficit budget. Now, the statement about BEP money, we are currently slated to get $59,260,000. I think that's what it, and we expect that to come up a little bit before we approve a budget. I know that we will get increased BEP funds for that for additional students that we get. However, we currently get $59,260,000. Last year, our salaries and benefits were $89 million. This year, under just the Battle Creek positions, cost of benefits and salaries is $91,536,824. So BEP doesn't scratch the surface of covering a whole position on its own, which is, I wish it did. I wish that was a reality. I was hoping to get a number with a 6 in front of it.
How many employees are being covered under BEP this year? Was it 800 and something last year?
That's currently in the BEP funding formula. Yes, in the worksheets. So we got that when that sounds about 3 weeks ago. Yes, we did receive that. Do you want to know the exact positions,
Well,
the number?
I'd like to see a copy. You can email it to me.
Sure, happy to. Yeah.
Anything else? Okay. Okay, that would be good. Any other, okay, Mr. Howe.
I do want to add one more thing on the list of things we need, positions we need. If we're going to go forward with a diploma, we need. I'm assuming this network engineer on here is the one for, and that's kind of something we gotta have as well. Yeah.
There's also down on the page, there's no particular salary or anything lined out there. I actually have in my budget notes to update that. It says Diploma Tech at the very bottom of that sheet.
Gotcha.
That's the one. The network engineer is tied to just a request
Okay.
that we need one.
So we don't even have a dollar amount for that one at all.
For the Diploma Tech,
Yeah.
I've got in my notes here that I've got, well, this is actually instructional technology. This is a separate position, but I don't have an assigned particular salary amount for it yet. But in our meeting this morning, Dr. Marzak said make sure that's in there. I sent the list you are currently looking at to everybody to say, hey, are your positions in here? And I haven't got responses back all for them, but we have gone through it and added those two, knowing that they need to be included.
Okay.
So,
And that was the other one was the dyslexia specialist.
yep,
Okay.
we approved that last night and implementing that, and we have to have that by law, according to Chris. So,
If we're going to keep compliance with the state dyslexia law, which we have to report back to the State Department of Ed, we have to have somebody to oversee that. Not only that will directly help us, I believe, with Key 1 and Key 3, with concerns of literacy. I think we're going to see our Tier 3 literacy numbers drop and more kids move into Tier 2 and Tier 1 when we start to apply specific dyslexia-specific interventions. But we have to have somebody that's certified and trained in the art of knowing dyslexia and training teachers on how to help students with dyslexia to get to that point.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody want to ask questions, have comments? Yes, Dr. Woodard, please.
Chair Kinzer, I'll go ahead and get the party started. I know that
There you go.
in respect to this board and in respect to where we are with funding, the Curriculum and Instruction Department, we do have some needs. One of the things we needed and that we requested was for 3 Read to Be Ready coaches to help strengthen Read to Be Ready. We're currently operating without that. We can make it again another year, and so I will offer up that as a cut for $195,000. In addition to that, I would offer up an elementary supervisor. We do need an elementary supervisor, but we're operating without it now. I'll offer that up at $84,000.
Is that with benefits?
That's the total. I think that's the total.
that's just their salary.
So
Salary,
it's
yeah.
not with benefits.
For a total of $279,000. Is that what you got? I got $279.
Okay, Dr. Weir, it'd be like we just go through and just let everybody like an auctioneer, like, you know, okay, who's going to beat that one now?
I
All right?
will.
Oh, there you go. Mr. Lang.
Well, since Dr. Woodard started this auction off, if we back out the $71,000 for the well-rounded child and keep our fingers crossed that we do get it from Title IV funding, and we do not address this year Title IX issues with coaching, we can back $246,953 out of the 188 line item.
And that is not with benefits either.
Mr. Lang, repeat the number.
246,953.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, Doc. You will all get something. Yes, Mr. Lacona.
And yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, half a million off the final
And we hadn't even
number.
started here.
Well, I mean, that is all grand, and I hate to be the one that brings bad news, but I mean, we're at 107.3 before raises, just funding Battle Creek positions. That does not include any of the requests that were just removed. So that's not good news. I appreciate the effort. We got a long way to go. And if, you know, we have to fund Battle Creek or we can't open the schools. And that would, so anything in that top request part, you've got that, document in front of you.
Yes.
That is in the farthest column to the right, just before the 3%. Or you can see where it says all positions right there. That budget with all positions.
Okay.
We're reducing from the budget that has 108.9 million as the bottom figure, because that's if we fund all 54 positions and their increases.
Okay, do we need to look at those positions to see which ones to fund? Some of those we've taken out just now, right?
Under the, so you see the column that says all new positions?
I
And
don't know what column I'm looking at anymore.
Okay. On the very, just go to the page 16 that I sent out a few days ago. Yes, 108,941. That includes all the positions. Now, yes, the 525,000 we were just talking about,
Mm-hmm.
that would reduce 108,941 by 525,000.
But that's without the raise.
There's no raise in there.
Okay.
No. And so I kicked the meeting off with, you know, making a decision about the salary study and the salary proposal and those positions, because you're bouncing that 3% off of 109,339 of a budget, and the largest payroll, because it includes all of those positions. If you take 3% times 28 new positions, and if you take 3%
Right.
times 54 new positions, you're going to get a huge difference. The 107,372, you can see the difference in the request right there. It's about 1.5 million, and it's on that sheet as well, a total of how much it costs for those additional requests that are not particularly linked to Battle Creek. Now, I'm not trying to steer anybody in a direction, but I mean, I think maybe y'all need to determine what a total number would be acceptable that you all want to send to the commission, and address maybe the studies or the new positions, which we kind of started doing already.
All right.
And
Mr. Penningsley's got a question.
sounds good.
Well, you all know what I want to send the commission, 111 million, but we know that's not going to fly. And I know what we talked about last night, and I know what we approved last night with the subs, but how much does it save us if we don't do the 21 subs that we approved last night?
Doesn't save you anything.
Doesn't save anything, because that's
Doesn't
coming out
save
of current
anything.
funding.
It's coming.
Good try.
Okay, I think what you need to know from us is, do we want to commit to a 3% raise for our employees? If the answer is yes, then we've got to find enough in other areas. We know that there's a 1.4 plus benefits, that's not including benefits, in these new positions. So, Mr. Pennings.
I'll state now what I said last year and for the last 10 years. I will not vote for any budget that doesn't give all our employees at least a 3% raise. And I realize it can pass without my vote, but I'll just say you right now, I will not vote for a budget that doesn't give them a raise.
This is a regular board meeting. We can actually vote on things, guys. So, I mean, I don't know if that's what you want to do, or you want to keep it on the table, but I'm certainly willing to make a motion that this budget include a 3% raise for all employees. I know you're gonna shut me up.
No, you say whatever you want.
Yeah.
If you look at our audit and what we cut in checks last year, and that's audited and done, and you include audit adjustments and the Keys budget that we funded that was $4.5 million out of fund balance, you can see that, yes, we spent over $3 million out of that fund balance, which was that one-time funding, But we cut checks of 102.8 million. Now, if we take that Keys project out, then we've really spent 99, almost 100 million last year. We increased our budget from our expenditures maybe 800,000, 900,000 in this previous year. This next increase that we're looking at is quite a bit on the 111 side, but that's just some history for what we cut in checks last year that was audited. I think we're going to be similarly around that 102 million mark after we cut all the checks for payroll, supplies, everything. So that's a starting point. So when you start the base of this budget, the reason these numbers look the way that they look is you factor in, okay, we're keeping all of our employees. We're adding a step raise for the people that are 20 years and under, and that averages an increase of 1.66% in salary, which brings your starting number for just doing the same thing you did last year in that just step column, which is 104.8. So that's the grounds we're starting at before we add one person, before we add a position. So that just puts it into context of kind of what we're working with. At the same time, like I said, Schiffer and I and also Chris and Ron met today, and we were able to find a decent amount of cuts, some things that were actually going to come out good this year on that I thought we probably wouldn't. So, good thing I have Schiffer. So, she was able to find some serious savings this morning that's going to help, but it ain't going to fix all of our problems. Revenues we've researched indefinitely. The additional revenue that we would get, that we could fund, would come from the commission. If they decide to increase the school board's allocation of pennies for property tax.
They are expecting a 2.5. They know that Battle Creek is going to cost another 2.5. So that's an expectation on their part that our budget would reflect that. Mr. Atkinson.
What is the how much money is it going to save if we don't do the 3% raise?
It truly depends on how many positions we add and if we do these salary studies, either the salary proposal to move the steps or to bring certain positions up to what the study said they should make. Off the top of my head, an estimate somewhere between 2.2 and 3 million.
And the step increases, if we, one or the other, if we change the step increases, leave them the same as they are right now, is that going to make how much money is that going to make a difference?
So if we just take the step, if we do, hold on one second.
212.
So you're saying if we didn't do step raises?
Yeah, if we didn't do the step raises but left the 3% in there, how much?
So we would, so after you add the 3%, and this is an estimate, this is not an exact figure. Okay.
Numbers, yeah.
So that would be about an increase of 300 to 700,000, based on that. Because right here, if I take out the step, that's 1.7 million. But if I add, but that's also not including any of the studies, or the additional positions. So Nathan's asking if we take the step raises off, but you get 3% instead. So it'd be, rather than getting the 1.66%, which is a calculation across the board, this is what the total salaries would be if we had the step, total salaries without the step. It's a 1.66% increase, and then you have the 3%. So if you're a current employee, it'd be a total increase of 4.66%. So really, you're just looking at a 1.34% increase on top of their step, and that would be the total cost of it. And so I'm thinking that would be above $1 million but it would chip away at it. And it really depends because we have 54 positions. If you have 54 salaries, your average salary is
I'm
30,000.
just trying to save a little bit of money here.
Yeah.
And also, they're gonna get a raise in the step increase a little bit, and then we add another 3% on top of that. That's almost 4.5% increase in raises. Is that the way I'm understanding it? I may be wrong, I don't know. That's what I'm trying to
They
figure
didn't
out.
get a raise last year.
They didn't get no raise last year.
And there's a 3% cost of living increase this year.
Yeah.
And there was one last year that we didn't meet.
Yeah.
The step raises are a reward for them every year.
Right,
I mean,
understand.
degree and all. It
I agree
has
with
to
you
do with
100%,
that.
but I agree with you. I wanna give all I can give, but the thing is, we want to cut the budget somewhere.
Well, I cannot justify spending $2 million on brand-new position, not counting Battle Creek, and then telling the teachers we're not gonna spend a similar amount on them when they haven't received that. I think what he needs to know is if that's a commitment we are gonna make to our employees. And they know, and Dr. Marzak is the one that's led the train here for that, right? They need to know that that's the figure that we're working with, and they've got to back out from there. We've got to maybe consider using some fund balance to fund some of this, but that's the way I feel. I'm willing to hear from all of you. But Tommy, what you think? Well, it's for all the times I didn't call on him.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Well, I think the administration needs to tell us what they definitely need of this 111 million, or whatever it is to begin with. They need to tell us what they need to keep moving this school district forward. Not a wish list. I mean, that needs to cut out any position that is not absolutely necessary. I'm still can't figure out why we keep saving positions. We refuse to right size, knowing that we've and not right sizing, we're paying for positions that are above what we need in specific schools, and then yet we're cutting the throats of the rest of our staff by not being able to give them raises because of the refusal to right size. These classes, we've got to decide what we want our in some of our class programs. We've got to decide whether it's beneficial or if we're going to be able to continue offering classes. You know, if we have a teacher and 10 students, you know, are we going to be able to continue offering that subject? I mean, somewhere we have to draw the line and say if you can't fill up your class, we've got to cut the program. You know, I mean, if so, you know, I'm not certain this 54 positions, how many of them are absolutely necessary. Some of them we've heard are required by law. Some of them we've heard the supervisors say that they have to have. Some of the positions, I think we have problems during the middle of the year that are aggravated because we haven't filled a position. So, you know, we've got to just make some drastic cuts here. But I'm all for making a request to the commission for what the administration says we absolutely need and have to have. You know, oftentimes we cut it and then knowing that they've told us that they absolutely need those positions, and so we got a lot of work to do. And I hope a lot of you are considering meeting a lot more than what we're meeting, if we're gonna meet, May the 13th deadline.
Realistically, I don't think we can make the 13th deadline, and I've talked to Mr. Lacona about that last night. Next Monday, he has to be at the, and they've even called me and told me that you can't have him.
Hey, she's plenty good.
And she's plenty good,
Great.
so,
Yeah.
but unless he would be able to come back on with what we want, what I think we need to decide here is what kind of number are we gonna try to get this down to? What's realistic?
Yep.
Dr. Marzak wants to speak. What?
You wanna say something?
Okay.
Well, hold on a second before you have an idea. Hold on a second. You got $6 million in your pocket. Did you win the lotto? You're willing to donate it? So one of the things I want to remind the board, the budget you see before you is in line with the strategic plan that you guys voted on. So one of the things that we sat down originally before we started having our budget meetings and talking to department heads, talking to principals, is we need to make sure that our budget is in line with the strategic plan that the board has adopted and voted on. So the things that you're seeing here that have been asked for by schools, have been asked for by departments, have been vetted against that strategic plan, because if you want us to move the plan forward, you guys know resources are needed in order to make that happen. So when you see things in line with technology, that's because you've added diploma to the strategic plan. When you see things in line with academics, that's because you said you wanted to be in the top 5% of all school systems performing academically on state assessments before 2023. When we talk about salaries, if we can't keep teachers and they go to other districts because they can make more money, we start all back over with individual people acclimating them to Murray County Public Schools. And as a conversation Doug and I have had about attrition, one of the research points that I gave to the board earlier was when a teacher leaves, we lose half of their salary to training, supplies, and materials. So by actually paying our teachers more, we're actually saving more money in the long run because half their salary is not walking out the door every single year when they leave our school system. So, I mean, you guys are exactly right. You have, and we have difficult decisions to make because we have a strategic plan that's guiding our work, that's pushing us forward, which is the budget you see here today. What you guys need to decide or give us direction on, or ask me, Marzak, what should we do, is how much of that strategic plan do you want to accelerate or back off on, and what kind of leeway are you willing to give towards 2023? Because if we can't raise salaries, if we can't have supplementary positions to support instruction, we're not going to get to the top 5% by 2023 because we're always playing catch-up every single year and we're never able to get ahead and move forward. So those are things to consider. But what sits at the base of this is your strategic plan. That's the budget you see before you today.
I guess, I didn't have a response planned or anything for that, but I wish we were in the top 5% of funding too in the state, because that would give us the tools we need to, move forward, and it would make my job extremely easy. But we're Murray County, so let's work hard and do the best with what we've got. And my idea, and it's not to, I guess, give a way out, but I think it would be informational in seeing y'all's analysis of it. What a 3% raise would create the budget at each column. Now that would make 12 columns, pretty much. You'd have a lot more information out on the table, but you would be able to see Battle Creek positions with the 3%. All new positions with the 3%. Now, I was anticipating some of these columns to maybe stay on or go away pertaining to whatever decision is made tonight. But if one isn't made, I can just throw the 3% in the columns in between and show you what that would cost on each level. We anticipated that $111 million wouldn't really fly in front of the commission or possibly here. So that's why we jumped on it and said, okay, if push comes to shove, let's start prioritizing these things. And so we've got meetings all this week to work on getting that to a lower number. But I just wanted to add that.
Let me let these guys speak here. I don't know who is there, Mr. Beaver.
Okay, and what you just said there, I think would be, probably a good way to address it, to just go down line item by line item with each school, and let's see where everything falls out, and I've been looking at the Keys budget all this afternoon, and how many teachers do we have in the Keys budget? That's supposed to be a one-time purchase, but we're funding teachers.
We have 0 positions in the Keys budget that are sustainable. The RTI interventions are 120-day contracts. Those are part-time positions, and there's no guarantee of funding year after year. So we have no positions in the Keys.
There's no teachers.
No, sir. No teachers. It's foolhardy to fund sustainable positions with one-time funding. So everything that's in the blue and the yellow has not been recommended to be funded. Schools ask for them, but only the things that were moved over to the green are recommended to be funded.
Yeah.
So we have no teaching positions.
I'm kind of like a statement Mr. Moore made last week, was I'd like to see the Keys budget go away, and then let's just take that and put it in our regular budget. And because I got the feeling there's a lot of fluff there, in the Keys budget.
Well, those are requests by schools to make progress with the Keys that they're accountable for, and the only reason we're at the number we're at is because that's a recommended fund balance number that Mr. Laconin said we'd be comfortable to stay under as a proposal to the board for funding. So the schools know there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee you're going to get it. This year we had no Keys funding, so it's hard to say where data lie to determine what should and should not be funding. But what will happen is if those get funded, at the end of the year there'll be a return on investment presentation to show growth. So going back to what we talked about a couple of years ago is it's not a wish list, it's a needs list, and in order to get funding, you've got to prove that the need was satisfied. So, like for example, an RTI interventionist for reading, they have to show the kids that person work with and the growth of those students over time.
Well, one of the things that I was looking at was, art supplies.
Yes, sir.
It's 1,000 here, 1,000 there. I know that's just pennies compared to what we're talking about.
Yes, sir.
But, we hired art teachers last year,
Yes, sir.
knowing that they're going to need supplies.
Yes, sir.
And so, that should be in the budget, regular budget, not in a Keys budget, not a one-time buy, I feel.
Yes, sir. Well, they do get art supplies. We do provide money through the BEP program. It's not much, but we do provide some. These were additional supplies that the schools were asking for in order to put into their arts program. Now, what they would have to do is which key that they asked for those art supplies under, they then have to prove that those supplies made an impact with regards to whether it's reading or mathematics or such and so forth in order to get that funding. And the principals know that that's an expectation. Mm-hmm. And it's an expectation because it's beyond and above what they currently have.
And then the salary study, what kind of money are we looking at there? Is that added into this 111 million? Yes. How much is a salary study?
Realigns the positions for a one-time increase, in which, so if you give those positions raises down the road, that percentage would actually yield a higher amount of raise in the future, and you'd be paying, even though it's $165,000 to increase those now, you continue to fund them year over year because they're positions, and that's just how it is. So.
Well, I think we need to take a hard look at that, because is that something that we really need? Right. And, they're at that rate, their 3% is going to be a whole lot more than the maintenance person's 3%. And so, we got to take a look at all across the board. And like Dr. Marzak said, you know, I think we need to relook at our strategic plan, because if all this is in line with what we voted on, and I'm not questioning that. I'm saying that it's obvious we didn't talk to the county commission and get them on board with what we're wanting 2 years ago or last year, whenever, you know, we made this decision. So we, as a board, need to relook at that and maybe make some changes. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Howe?
So, I would love to give a 3% raise and step raises and everything. I think that's great. I think we need to support our teachers and our entire staff. But what are we willing to give up for that? Like, what program? We're going to have to cut programming. We're going to have to cut something. We can't hire 54 positions. I think last year, although I was not on the board, I was sitting in the audience, we were looking at just the opposite. We weren't hiring 54. We were cutting 56 positions. We didn't, no, or y'all didn't. I wasn't here then, but the board did not. So I mean, we're in a constant state of battle. Like I said, we prioritize the positions we do need to keep, and I think we need to do that. But I guess how many positions did we lose last year to other counties, and how many did we gain?
Let me pull up that email. Just give me a second.
Please do, because I can't. I was trying to find it myself, and I couldn't find it.
She said last time when we were talking during the private conference, we lost 25, gained 27.
And that's where I'm at. So we're obviously not gushing, we're not bleeding out teachers. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying we shouldn't give them a raise, but I'm just saying we're doing something, because if we lose 25 and we gain 27, sounds pretty good to me. I'd like to retain all of them, but you're never going to retain all of them. Out of how many teachers do we have? 800, 900 teachers? I'd say that's a pretty low turnover rate, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't think there's any company in Murray County that probably has that low of a turnover rate. So, although this is very important, I do want to take care of all of our employees. Can we afford to do that, and at what cost? What are we going to have to cut to do that? And is that going to impact their jobs? So if we're cutting resources to the teachers, is that worth it? I don't know. I'm just asking that question.
I have those exact figures. We actually lost 20 teachers to other counties, but we recruited and hired 27 from other counties.
So we
last year.
lost
That was the
20.
total.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Be clear that all other counties gave raises last year, which we didn't. We had the lowest beginning salary of any of the 13 surrounding counties. If they give what they traditionally do, give a raise, we will bottom out at the lowest. The whole modification of beginning was, 3% was included in that. I just don't know how you justify adding $1 million of positions and ask the teachers to pay for that.
It's not money out of their pocket.
It is.
If it's not money that they're given, there is no raise. They're not giving a raise right now. What I'm saying is these are positions that we're growing as a school system. We're not shrinking. So if we're going to continue to grow, there are certain positions that we're going to have, whether the Tennessee state law says we have to have them or whether we just have to have. I mean, our facilities are growing. We're putting 2 more schools online. Stan's not got people to do what he needs to do now. So there are just certain positions we're going to have to look at. Now, do we need all 54? No, I think we can probably find some cuts. But there are key positions that we do need, and we're going to have to figure out how to fund them. If we can fund raises, let's fund raises. But what are we going to cut? That's my question.
That's right.
That's my question. What are we cutting?
That's right. But, you know, who is it teaches the children, the teachers, their staff, support staff? Who is it has to answer for the scores? The teachers, the support staff, and you, Dr. Woodard. No, I'm sorry. I just don't think that I've never understood, since I've been on the board, why we talk about teacher salaries last. I don't understand that. I don't understand why you build a budget, and on the back end of it, you say, well, what are we gonna do for our employees? I don't think that's the way most businesses run, because you wanna keep the best and the brightest. You wanna attract the best and the brightest. I think it's a great place to work. I agree. But I think it's going to be harder and harder and harder, because we know they're not coming out of school to be teachers. We know that they're not producing them because it's just not there. Rutherford County's given a $4,000 signing bonus. Williamson County's given a $3,500. Our teachers could cross the line, get $3,500 just for going there to teach and make a higher salary.
And then they're gonna have to pay more for their benefits and pay more for gas
They
and
have-
leave earlier to get there.
Williamson County has
So-
equal benefits that we do.
So, I mean,
Most all of the places have,
well, what I've heard is the benefits are the same, but they pay more for them. I think we've heard Amanda say that numerous times, that when they say they're going to Williamson County, some of them within a month or two are like, I want to come back because I'm making less money out of my paycheck.
but the salary study, which obviously I do not think was very thorough or correct, because they didn't even talk to a lot of staff members, but I'm gonna quote it. And he said that that as far as benefits are concerned, we are somewhat equal. So what we have probably is a better insurance policy.
I agree.
Those of us know that have worked there. But I think they deserve, I'm talking too much, Mr. Pennings. Oh, are you through?
Well, we could take back some of the benefits we gave them 3 years ago in the now famous non-MOU, which gave them a lot more benefits. We did a lot of things for the teachers in the MOU. Yes, they need more money. Teachers keep telling us, and we keep hearing from the board, that the starting salaries for these starting teachers is too low. Now, I will disagree with Miss Betty on the benefits, because I've always said, if you're talking about wages, you have to add in the benefits. In fact, you have to add more than what the benefits cost you, because it's a non-taxable item. And we'll give you, I don't know, say a 10% raise, and we'll cut way back on the benefits, and we'll see if you come out ahead. It's not realistic, and I cannot help it, which they keep saying, that the young people they hire don't think about benefits. That's their problem, not mine. I realize I'm old now, but I was young once, and I used to think about benefits when I did contracts all the time. And if you're an educated person, you sure as hell should be talking about benefits. And if you're not educated enough to worry about your benefits, I don't want you as a teacher. So we have to consider benefits. We also have to consider that we need the positions we need. If we would say, well, let's just not hire those teachers for Battle Creek, and we won't open it this next year. I don't know if there's enough rope in the county for all of us. You know, no, but I mean, you want to save a bunch of money. Teachers need raises. I agree to that. But last year, you sit back and remember everything we cut out of the request to get down to give the teachers 3%. We cut things that I and a lot of other school board members, including Mr. Dudley, said we would never cut. But we did, because the county commission said, this is what you're getting, and that's all.
But we didn't give them a 3%. We didn't give them a 3%.
We gave them what we could afford.
Nothing.
No, you can never say nothing, because if you're making $60,000 a year, you get a 1.66 step raise. That's something. Now, granted, somebody making $150,000 got a bigger raise. I understand all of that. But we're supposed to be here for the kids, and I know the teachers are a very important part, probably the most important part for the kids are the teachers. But we can't keep cutting programs either. We can't keep doing things that got us in so much trouble in the maintenance department for years. Stan needs another man in his department. That's pure and simple. He needs them. Instead of throwing him to the wolves and putting him in the finance department when we lost our financial director, you should have just hired another person for Stan. I realize we have to make cuts, but at some point, we have to say, this is what we need. Let's get down to what we need. Let's not worry whether we think the county commission will or will not fund it. Tell them what we need, vote on it, send it to them.
I know, how do I top that? Do you think that you all are gonna work on this some this week, where there's more cuts? I would, if 290,000 is what the salary study was doing, I would say that could be cut. Because if we include the 3%, they would still get a raise and a step raise as well. So.
It was only 160,000.
But with the benefits, he said 290.
Oh, 190. 190.
Okay, well, 190. That means that you've given us here almost $1 million something in cuts that I've listed. Right, and if we can look at fund balance to fund some of that, those that the BEP will cover, and we can consider recurring, so that up to, hopefully, Doug, you can look at it and see what would be possible. So before you all make any kind of definitive position here, can we not give you all a bigger opportunity? My problem with new positions is not Battle Creek, not those. I agree Stan needs one. We need the behavior specialist. We've already taken care of the dyslexia. I agree you can do without the elementary supervisor because you've been doing without it. And there may be some others on there that we can do. It is just really hard to have us say, well, we need to right size and get rid of personnel, but then we're going to turn around and hire people to supervise personnel that you see what I'm saying? It's just not, to me, it's spending $1 million, $2 million, whatever that is for a lot of those positions. And I think that many of them could be cut out. If you're asking me for what they are, I need time to look at it a little further.
Yeah. So these are the positions that Mr. Laconin was referring to before. Notice that most of them are school-based positions. Like, for example, the behavior specialist, that's been asked for by principals and teachers. So those people would be in schools. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. The teachers for creative submissions, as you see, that's only 16 and 15. Those are quarter-time positions. That's, like I said, that's per the strategic plan. Those were picked. The Read to Be Ready coaches, key one. ELL facilitating teacher is in the schools with ELL students. Project Lead the Way, Teen Living teacher for teaching as a profession at Central High School. The nurse, there's not much we can do on that. We have to move that from a part-time to a full-time, or lawsuit costs more than $35,000. The Murray County Juvenile Justice Center, that's a transfer. You'll see that up there twice as an add and a minus. So that's a push. So you don't have to worry about that one. No. It's tough.
It's tough.
And the full-time bus subs, and the reason why Doug and I hired these in yellow, and let me talk about a couple of these actually. Getting full-time bus subs. So right now we currently have when a bus driver goes down, we have very little people to cover those routes, which is why Eric and some of the ladies that answer the phones and do payroll have to drive buses in the afternoon, because we have nobody to sub when a bus driver goes down. So that means there's nobody answering the phone. And as Mr. Laconin told me today, sometimes they're getting a little bit close on bus driver payroll because the person that does it's driving a bus, because we don't have enough people to cover the routes. The Virtual Academy of Murray County could be a push, because as students join, we gain their BEP money. So if a homeschool student or a student somewhere else in the state, all we need is an enrollment of 6 kids to make that salary. So if we get 10 kids, now we're looking at generating revenue in BEP for the school system. So we are very close to launching our own virtual academy where kids would do online work from basically anywhere they want to in the state. They could be in Lewis County, they could be in Tipton County, and they're an enrolled student in Murray County Public Schools doing all online work through our credit recovery program, Edgenuity. And as those students log in every day, we get that average daily membership, and then we get that BEP money from the state. So that position could pay for itself after 6 students. So those are the ones that we highlighted as critical, but we've pretty much already, you see some space between the 3 Read to Be Ready coaches and the ELL facilitating teacher. Things have already been taken out. So, tough position to be in. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So, like I said, I'm meeting more this week to look at what potential cuts could be. I made some bullet points while people were speaking. Mr. Beaver, you referred to the KEYS funding. So every dollar that we put towards the KEYS funding is a dollar that could potentially be used to help balance next year's budget as well. And, you know, it's the board's decision on how that factors in, but that it would be a one-time draw from fund balance in which we would increase the budget for those things, and we would count them as already approved and already coming out and restricted for that money out of our fund balance. So it would lower any balancing we could use with our fund balance. That's really all I had. Something I wanted to take a look at is you had mentioned that, you know, other school districts had given raises in other counties, and I just made some notes to do a study on whether they were able to do that within their own funding or whether they had the commission provide more funding. Did they raise taxes? Did they get influx of revenue that they hadn't seen before? Was it tied to growth? You know, kind of reach out to some other county school districts and see what they've been able to do, and maybe have we been underfunded or have in the past have we kind of inflated some things that maybe we didn't need or maybe we did need, you know, just kind of compare to other districts and their budgets and what they're able to do with it, and you know, also I guess tie it to scores, you know, and how they're doing, but also you have to take into account the affluency of that region, of you know, what a penny brings in those more property-rich counties.
Apparently the state thinks we're pretty affluent because they keep lowering how much we get from the BEP. The 70% was lower than most counties. So I think somebody thinks there's a bigger ability to pay than they are paying. I don't know where we are or how we get to where we need to be. I really don't. What do you think, Doug, is the number we need to try to reach? 107, 100?
I mean, I would be, I guess, speaking for the commission on that behalf. When you look at anything that's greater than your revenue, you know, we've got 101,891,000. That means that we got to find that, or we have to ask the commission for more pennies. And the commission is in a very similar situation to what we currently are in. We've got needs, we've got wants, we've got a budget in which we want to take the county in a better direction, just like this school board does. Mm-hmm. You want to do the right thing for our schools and for our kids in Murray County. The commission wants to do the right thing for the citizens as well, and so do the department heads and elected officials. So they've submitted budgets to move their departments forward, what they've needed, and all of that good information. We're currently at a deficit pretty similarly across the board, you know, and we have a really tough decision both at this level and at the commission level you know, how much can we cut and how much would we end up sacrificing on those services and things that the school board and the commission provide to the community. And on the latter side of that, if that sacrifice is too big, is anybody willing to raise revenue to fund that? So that's really something that a number that would kind of be established by the commission, and we're not far away from a budget committee meeting on May 13th. I can add that to the agenda, that they give a number that they are confident with. I will say, you know, large increases, we have to factor in Battle Creek. That's no brainer. And in this budget, the cost looks to be around $2.8 million. You have to factor at least keeping your positions and giving a step or something similar to that. That puts you at least at $104.8 million before Battle Creek positions, and right now $107.3 million with Battle Creek positions. Right. And so we found some cuts today that would help bring that number down. I have more meetings to do. So something I think we can move forward with, and I do think the school board should make some decisions on those studies, because it would make my job a little easier, just to be blunt. But I have no problem calculating 3% against those columns either, and bringing cuts and 3% added into every column here, and let you all make decisions.
I personally think it's not that much money, but if you can calculate it with the 3%, I would take out the salary study. It's not that much money, but you're talking about a raise. If you're talking about a raise on top of that, you know, it just stands to reason. When do you think you could come back with us with all of this?
I pre-planned for this.
Yeah.
We've already met.
Does that surprise me?
I can be back May 6th with cuts and with raises in every column. That way you can see. And I just saw it looking at it. I said, you know, it'd be pretty nice if they had Battle Creek with a 3% raise, and they don't. Y'all can't see that right now. But I also, you know, think as far as some guidance, because, you know, it does constrain me for time to continue to update things that may not have a chance of being approved or may be approved, or you know, and also as far as the format, and I've gotten you know, hey, we just want to see the big number, hey, I want to see all the object codes. I'm happy to do whatever y'all ask, and my decision has been, well, give them both. Well, just in this same scenario here, well, give it all to them. You know, let them make the decision. So that's what I'm here to do. Schiffer's here to do. We provide the information. The administration, Dr. Marzak, Ron Woodard, you know, all of the department heads and principals, they make the decisions on what they think that they need for this school system to move forward and to achieve greatness. And you all get to be the ones to say yes and no and send to the commission for funding. So I'm here to provide information for all the sides so that a decision can be made. So any request for information, you know, we're here, and we'll do that.
Marzak.
So Doug, just to show the board where we are, so the 104 right here, what does that encompass?
That's our current staffing with step increases and the current supplies and equipment and services and other charges that are being asked for this year.
Okay, got you. So that's really
No
to
Battle
maintain
Creek
what
in
we
there.
have now. We need at least 104, 895, 462.
That's correct.
So that's our starting number right there.
That's a step raise in the current employees we got. Now, we found some savings today that are going to impact that number and bring it down. I would estimate 700,000 as a conservative number.
Okay, so about 104.1 then is really our number where we need to start.
Is what we move forward from today as far as cuts that would affect that beginning number. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't want the board to think that we're at 101,589,041. Go ahead and erase that number from your memory.
That's our amended budget for this
Yeah.
current operating year.
We need to start at 104,1. That's where we need to start at. So anything beyond that, anything above that, is what the county commission's going to have to give us, or we're going to have to pull out of fund balance. So the question is how much higher do we want to go? That's really the question. Because we know what happened last year.
That includes Battle Creek?
That does not include Battle Creek.
Okay.
No, Battle Creek is another 2.8 on top of that. So
Okay.
that gets us up to that basically gets us back up to 106.8.
Okay, the commission is expecting that increase from
Yes,
us.
yeah.
Okay, so that we can justify.
So actually our starting base is 106.8.
Okay, so.
That's where we start, 106,800,000 plus change.
Okay, so raise on top of that is 2.2 more.
I think you included a raise, didn't you?
Yeah, not yet. Doug, can how much is every 1% on the raise? Do you know offhand?
700 something thousand.
700,000 was an estimate. I was just doing some math right now, and it's closer to about. Hold on, 1 second. 94. So it's actually closer to 915,000, but that's with our current salaries, including Battle Creek.
Don't take any
Okay.
pictures.
So, like I said, that is a figure based on including a lot of these things. That's why I haven't calculated. You don't see a 3% for if we left the study out, or if we left both studies out, or if we left 20 something of the other positions that don't
Okay.
pertain to Battle Creek out. So that's the current. Well, because I was never asked. I just saw it and thought it'd be a good idea.
All right, so 106.8 is our starting figure, right?
I'm getting 106,895. Is that a good number? So 106,895,000 is our starting number.
Okay, so
And that does not have 3% in it.
I understand.
No,
I was
not
just
yet.
gonna say that.
That's why I asked about 1%.
So can you then show us, if we add the 3%, then we're at about 109, correct?
It may go up to 110. Hold on.
Or 2 point. That's everything today.
Yeah.
2,746,000 on top of, okay, so that's what I just, yeah, and change. Okay, and then at some point we could look at trying to use some of our fund balance to offset some of that. And not fund the Keys budget.
That is a decision for y'all to
Mhm.
make.
Right.
Yes.
Which, that's $1 million we know that we could put in there. And then you're gonna give us an estimate of what you think, a ballpark figure of what you think our fund balance conservatively will be, okay? And then we can decide if we can use another $2 million for that, and we're really financing Battle Creek that way,
Mm-hmm.
which is, we'll get the money for the next year in the BEP. Now, I think you're gonna get more BEP money because,
We have every year. Yeah.
and
Yeah,
We've gotten growth money every year.
Mr. Sapicki, on the radio, gave the figure as 1.8.
More.
I need to have a
No.
talk with him.
Yeah. So I want my money.
I want to know where his number's coming from.
I think it's in
Yeah.
vouchers.
Yeah. It's voucher money.
It's vouchered out.
Stop. That was a joke. Don't quote that, Mike. Yes.
Please don't. My mouth and my brain don't always work together. Okay, so that's what I wanna see.
Okay.
Is that okay with y'all?
We'll do it. We'll pop it
Let
in
me ask
there.
a question.
All right.
Okay, the 106.8, that includes everything except Battle Creek as proposed as of today, right?
No, it
That's-
includes Battle Creek.
That
That
keeps us
includes
where we
Battle
are,
Creek.
plus Battle Creek, yes.
There are no raises. That is just the step. Yeah, that is the step raise.
Yeah, and no additional positions.
Or
So going
salary
back
study,
to,
or
going back to this
salary
document,
proposal.
other than Battle Creek, it doesn't include any of these positions as well. Or the salary study increases, no.
Okay, so when are we gonna get a look at all the teachers proposed for Battle Creek?
It's right here.
Could you send us a copy of that?
He did, he sent it today.
Okay.
And we found a little bit today in here, because one of the things, Doug didn't know because he's new, is the principal position, we already have that half funded. So through us collaborating and working on this document, we reduced Battle Creek by $100,000 through collaboration.
What if we proposed just raising, educators in classified and not central office?
You mean no maintenance people, no bus drivers?
I don't consider them central office, so, well, I guess they are.
Yeah, anybody that doesn't touch the classroom would be classified that way.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, they touch the steering wheel. but that's a question for you guys. Where do we stop? Where do we
Are they
start?
not considered classified personnel? Bus drivers?
Yeah, bus drivers are they're
That's what I said,
considered classified.
right.
Yeah. So no certificated personnel beyond the buildings?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is that a lot of money? Because
I
most
don't
of,
know.
a lot of the central office positions are not funded by BEP, so it's,
Well, two positions are not funded by EP. Chief of Staff and Chief of Financial. Those are the only ones not funded by BEP. No, that's true. Good point. Well, you are until June 30th. Well, you're Chief Financial Officer, right? No. One position is not funded. Chief of Staff.
I honestly don't like the idea. I'm not putting it out there because I really think when you give, a percentage raise, it should be for everybody.
Yes.
I do feel that way, but I also feel very strongly that, that we need to be competitive and we need to take care of our staff.
Yeah,
You
agreed.
know, the ones that aren't making the big bucks.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Atkins,
I just would like to see a proposal put together that reduces what you're talking about, and you've already had almost $1 million reduced from his. We need to get down to somewhere around 108, 109 million is kind of what I'm looking at as far as numbers. And I don't have a problem sending it to the county commissioners with the 3% raise. That should take care of that with the 108, 109 million. And if we gotta break it down to 2% raise or something like that to get the numbers right, I don't have a problem sending it like that. Yeah, we can come back once we send it to them. If they don't agree to it, I mean, we'll just have to work it from there.
So, 915,000 roughly per percent, so if we did a 2% raise across the board, that definitely gets, I mean, I'm not saying we fund all of these requests, but that funds pretty much all the new positions. So, just throwing that out there, that way, and that would keep us under 109.
I think you could
So-
fund the 3% at 109, what you said, looking at using some fund balance, so it would increase our revenue. So you really, if you increase the revenue, we know we can handle 104, we increase the revenue, so you're really not asking for that much difference between the two from the commission. Are we not? I'm just an art teacher, what do I know?
Say that again, please.
No, I can't do that.
What time is it?
No, what I'm saying is, 104 is where we are. Well, no, that's, okay. Wait. You need to put your phone up and listen here now, okay, okay. 104 is where the starting place is, then we got Battle Creek, that's another 2-point-something million on top of that. And then we've got raises. Now, I'm not real sure what I remember what I said, but I'm just saying that if 104 is what we can justify in revenue that we have coming in, holding our own, no raises, meeting the step raises, that's all well and good. But if we need these extra things, and we can use some of our fund balance to do it, then we need to look at that as well. If we need to go to the commission without using the fund balance yet, and put our case for a cost of living increase of 3%, Battle Creek costing 9 million more, they're having the same problem. They know that we have that we're all looking at the same problem, and I'm sure that they're probably looking at a tax increase. But I think we are going to have to look at, we've already loosened up $1 million here if we don't do the keys. Right? So that makes our 104 go up to 105, because now we've got revenue to that. Now, don't you scares me when you're I know. So if that million is in there, and that's a little more revenue in there, and we're hoping to get a little more revenue as well, I don't think it's going to be that difficult to do all the things we want to do.
And like I said, we've already cut out of this request. What was it? 400,000, 500,000. We cut out of the positions. Yeah. So out of what was the total request? 1.4. You've cut down to $1 million. So. I just meant on the request that he sent out. Yeah. He hasn't taken them out yet. Yeah, the positions. No, they're not. No.
I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna throw a couple things out there. I know there's a huge dilemma about that there was not a raise above the step raise last year. I'm sure that's a pressing issue. Something the commission has done in the past is to save cost on how much a raise cost is. If you have new employees that had started after a certain date, or they're on a certain step or something like that, you can give a raise for people who have a higher date of a certain higher date. Now, new teachers might not like that. I don't know. So that's a possibility for cutting some cost on that. Is base it off of higher date. But that's just one idea. Throwing that out there. We're going to continue to
about that.
Sure.
If we did the modification to beginning like we're planning, which was like about $200,000, but yet we didn't give a 3% to those 4 years, would that offset it, or
yes,
get us a better thing?
It would offset it, but you see the salary, adjusting those beginning salaries are not factored into the Battle Creek column.
Okay.
So that doesn't help you until after that 106.8 million. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've got the 2.7 plus the 104.1, so 106.8. That has no salary study, no salary proposal.
Gotcha.
No raise. So the other thing I would like to say, just as kind of your financial budget advisor, I guess, is that fund balance is a savings account. It is not revenue. It is not coming back once you spend it. And if I can guarantee that the BEP will not cover all of these positions. It doesn't cover it right now. It's not even close, which is sad, because it impacts our funding. But if you chew that fund balance up and you chew it all the way down to 3%, our budget's going to be an increase again next year, I promise you. We always need more. We're in a growing economy. We're growing in teachers and students, and we're a snowball rolling downhill pretty much. So our budget's going to go up, and then we're not going to have any fund balance to make up that difference. And it's just a problem you create for yourself in future years. And looking at the revenues we have coming in all of the projects, we have $160 million worth of capital projects that need to occur over the next 4 years. Now, the need determines on what y'all think you should approve and what the commission thinks they should approve out of that $160 million. But even if, let's just say, 30 or 40 million of that is heartache needed right now, and we say, okay, and we go get a bond and we do it, we're going to need funding to cover it down the road, because we're going to need more money for other capital projects, and we're not going to be able to meet our debt policy on the county commission side. And we're not going to have fund balance to fund it here, because we're going to use it right now. So, just know that fund balance is you saying, okay, to fund our operations, we're going to take out of our savings account that could be used for capital or could be used for diploma or could be, like I said, y'all have to determine what a level of service is for your students in school district, and the commission has to do the same thing on their side and make a decision. What's the plan this year? Are we cutting as much as we can and getting to a point where we can make it through this year, or are we going to be seeing a revenue increase to help move this forward and just really fund ideas that would help provide a better service for our community? And I'm just going to answer questions the rest of the time. I think I talked too much already.
I think Will wants to say something.
Did actually. Nathan made a good point earlier in the night. Is it out of the question to get us numbers for the step, and then to have a 3% total increase in salaries? And that way the teachers who are at the 20 years who's not going to get a step is still going to get that 1 point whatever percent. We wouldn't leave them out. I think, I would like a increase in salary, but I just don't know where it's going to come from. And it might be minimal, but I would like to see numbers for that versus the full step and 3%.
I can get you those numbers for next meeting. Yeah, I can get what it would cost to give everybody, including people greater than the 20th step, a 1.66% raise, and we would have to calculate for everybody, because we have a step for everybody. So averaging those is how I got to the 1.66%. You take their salary right now and their salary with the step, and you get that 1.66%. And not all steps are the same, as Amanda will tell you. There are some steps where there is not an increase. Is that correct, Amanda? Yeah. So there's I think 3 random years in which you don't get anything. So I would go back and I guess factor in those ones that don't get anything and say, hey, just this year you get,
Right.
And I don't know what that'll do. I guess we don't have a teacher here to say. Do we? Yeah, we do. How'd that make you feel? Yeah, I don't know, but
what he's saying is that they
I can
would
bring
get
the
a 3%, but that 3% would include their step raise. Is that what you're saying?
okay.
The total raise would be, yeah.
So basically, that'd be the step plus a 1.34% raise.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
bring numbers for that.
Yes.
If so we'll bring those figures and look at that as well. Okay. I still think modifying beginning is an inexpensive way to to do.
Tell me if y'all want it in there or not.
How do you all feel about that?
I hate to put y'all on the spot, but
Yeah.
it makes it a lot
The
easier.
modifications we proposed, Dr. Marzak proposed to bump up beginning, which, if you remember last year when I brought it up, it was 0, and then the step is 1,700 and something, from 0 to 1. So the proposal that I put forward last year and somewhat this year is that you take that money and you push it up to beginning, and then you have a smaller step going down. So you're not really spending much money because, and I think in the study there weren't but 31 positions last week at beginning, new positions, and maybe one other position that had a master's, and so that's why it doesn't cost a lot to get it up to a competitive place, because you're really taking money that's already budgeted and you're flowing it up. Does that make sense to y'all?
Are you talking about the initial hire increase pay, raising it up to 17?
Yes, but you're not
or
taking the
1,700?
money, you're not getting the money from an outside source to do that. You're
pulling from
flowing
their-
the step raises
Yeah.
a different way. Do you all want to
Well, we're
keep that?
finna do a whole lot of new hires here pretty soon. Are we not? The new ones for Battle Creek?
No, there's very little teachers that are new hire because we were able to use in-county.
Okay.
Yeah, the
21.
positions, the positions that we have up here, special education teacher, PE teacher, these were all positions we could not get from internal, so, yeah.
There's 10 in one school and 11 in another school that are teaching positions that came. I mean, some of them did move, but their position has to be filled at the school that they left from. So that's technically additional funding. Now,
When enrollment increases.
Yeah.
When enrollment increases, yeah.
So I had a question just to clarify, getting the numbers, the 3% including the step. There are a lot of positions that don't get step raises. I think, is that bus drivers? Is that in technology?
Well, technology does.
They
We
get
got,
it? Okay.
Maintenance just gets a step raise every 5 years, so
Okay.
a lot of them don't get one every year. Some of those kind of things.
So, I mean, do you want me to include a 3% raise for them in that number that I bring, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I think we're talking about for everybody. I mean, I'm not trying
Well,
to
I was
pick and
just talking
choose.
about his
Right.
particular
Exactly.
request for including a 1.6. Well, it's basically, I'm going to recalculate that because we're going to include an increase to basically get it to a total of 3%, including that step. So with people that don't get steps, they're getting a flat 3%, with nothing tied to the step. Is that how you would like me to bring it? That it's kind of all inclusive that way, or do you want? Okay.
You want the 3% to actually include the 1.66 or whatever it is? So you actually would be giving them 124, 134 raise? On top of the step.
I would really like to get to a point where we can get away from these raises and just set a base raise every year, like 1% raise every year guaranteed throughout. If we can get the county commissioners to buy off on that way we ain't gotta talk about.
That's what we need to
these
have in our
raises.
strategic plan.
Yeah.
Remember me bringing that up? That we need to have, the one thing that's not in our strategic plan is where we want to be for our employees.
I would like to see a 1% raise across the board for every year, 1% every year. If we can do that, if we can get the county commissioner to buy off on that,
A
that's
minimum
guarantee.
1% every
Minimum
year.
1%
It's
every
always
year.
calculated.
If we're getting more money coming in, more revenue coming in, yes, maybe an extra 1 or 2% more after that, if we got good funding coming in. But I would like to get to a point where we don't even have to talk about these raises. I've been
I
talking about it
agree.
for the last 3 or 4 years.
I agree, and it's,
Just
yeah.
set it up, base 1% every year, guaranteed.
if we make that part of our strategic, and we also talked about where we'd want to be in 5 years. Do we want to have given at least 10% in 5 years, so that maybe there's a year you could give 1%, 3%, but part of our strategic plan would be, it should be where we want to be in 5 years. And I think that's reasonable. I don't like this whispering stuff now. No, not okay, then.
He was agreeing with it, wasn't he?
Oh, these budget meetings are so hard. It's good to laugh instead of say we don't have to cry. Go ahead, Mr. Baber.
I know one thing about the bus drivers. You know, if you go around Middle Tennessee, every county you go in, there's a sign, we need bus drivers. Bus drivers, you know, we're hiring bus drivers. And it's not just here, it's every county you go into. And talking to a lot of people, it's because of what they pay. I mean, you know, they get a couple hours in the morning at $10 an hour, a couple hours in the afternoon at $10 an hour, and you know, I know they're shooting for retired people, you know, but retired people are getting tired of it.
Well, and it used to be farmers. It was great for farmers, but we don't have that many farmers anymore.
Okay, let's recap where we are. We haven't made any complete decisions tonight other than we have seen some cuts. We know there's going to be some more cuts made. We're going to look at revenue as well. We're going to Shipra's going to come back and, well, I know one of you will be here. I know that Scott Summers called me to be there, and I said, well, I need to be at this meeting, and he said, well, Doug needs to be at our meeting. It's like, I know. So maybe.
Hey, they don't know what they asked for. Y'all might get the better end of the deal on that.
That's right. So next week is a work session. Do we need to have a call special added on to the end of the work session in case we are ready to vote on anything, or do we need to plan another budget meeting? And I honestly don't think we need to rush this. I really don't. And I don't think it's prudent to do that, because we're looking at more figures coming in and all the time. Everything, it's changed since the last time we talked. It's going to change since the next time. So I would rather schedule another budget meeting going forward. And I don't know when that can be. I have them in here. The 13th is Mount Pleasant, the 14th.
So so Wednesday the 15th, we don't have a graduation.
Okay, the 8th is collaborative conferencing.
Okay.
The 9th might be, but I'd rather give Doug time maybe to that budget committee. The budget meeting would be the 13th for the commission.
You're having collaborative conferencing, we're starting at 5.
Yeah, we could do it.
We can cut off
We
at
could,
6.
right, we don't think it'll take a long time. We could have collaborative conferencing and then have a budget meeting at 6. Don't you think? Okay. That would be the 8th.
Okay.
And that'd give you a little more time.
Does that mean the 6th is off?
The 6th
Yes,
is
we have a work
session. Okay, which we'll just have the, financials on, but it won't be strictly talking about budget. We can talk about budget. We will talk about budget.
Oh,
I want to talk
it's up
about
to y'all.
budget.
I can tell.
I would think we should talk about it in the work session.
We had originally planned to finalize the GP budget on the 6th. That's what we had originally discussed.
Yes. Which would mean we would have to have a call special.
After the meeting?
After the meeting. If we're able to do that. If not, then we can.
I think.
On the 6th, we're talking about the 6th.
We can do a special call. We can. do it in the morning?
They're saying that we're gonna get brand new figures on the sixth. We're gonna discuss budget on the sixth. We're gonna get brand new figures.
I hope
to
to have
consider.
them before then, so you can review for the
Okay.
6th. Yeah.
I know you wanna get this done and,
Oh, I don't
you
mind.
know, but
Whenever y'all, I don't vote on it.
But there's also, this is concerning too, because there are just 7 of us here.
Yeah.
So what happens when we do finally get everybody together, we start all over,
Yes, ma'am.
you know, and that's kind of frustrating.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you all think? I mean, should we go on and say, have a call special in case we are ready to vote? On the sixth?
On the sixth, I
No.
would go ahead and have a special call, and if we don't need it, we don't need it, but we've got it there in case we do need it.
Go on and post it
And go ahead and post it, that way,
Okay.
in case we do
But
need
it's
it, everything
tentatively
looks good.
planned.
Yeah,
for the 8th, for a budget meeting on the 8th.
Do you want us to load 2? Load both the 6th and the 8th, and then we can cancel the 8th if we
If we
need
pass a
to?
budget on the 6th, we'll just have a party on the 8th.
That sounds like a plan to me. Miss Shirley, you got that?
Collaborative conference.
Yes.
Right. We're talking about posting a budget meeting on the 8th after collaborative conference.
So let's post a special called budget meeting, for 9 o'clock on the 6th, and then do another called budget meeting on the 8th at 6.
Right.
You're talking about at night, right?
Yes, sir. 9 o'clock at night.
Well, we would be.
We can't do 9 o'clock in the morning. We're on the school tours.
Well, you have to have a time when the call special is?
Yes, ma'am. I would recommend.
What if we get through at 8?
Can't you just put on there following
We have to
Just
put
say
we
following.
got to say a time. We have to put a time. We have to inform the community of what time it will be. You want to go at 7? You guys get the work session done in an hour? It's up to y'all. Do you want to do 7 o'clock? Do you want to do 7:30?
7:30.
7:30. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I would look at it this way. We need to spend some time on the budget, so we could go through the agenda items that we have for the work session in an hour and a half, surely. I mean,
Mhm.
we're not bringing anybody in to make some sort of long speech, are we?
No, ma'am. No, the long meeting's going to be the 23rd when we do all of our recognitions and awards.
Yes, yes. Y'all don't miss that.
No.
So, and also, if you haven't signed up to go to a graduation, it's nice to have a board member on the field with them.
Miss Shirley's got the list, and if you haven't accepted for the school tours for McDowell and Spring Hill, we've got quite a few county commissioners that have accepted. So.
I'm going. Are any of you all planning on you're going? Huh?
Bring it with you.
Well, I hope you. I know Kristen said she was going.
Monday the 6th, starting at 9:30, ending around 1. No.
Yeah, you're going, Mr. Pennings. You're going, right? You're going, right? Yes, you are. You're retired. You got to do that.
9:30.
Yeah, I asked everybody to do the cutoff tomorrow at noon, so I'm going to send the list tomorrow afternoon of who starts at McDowell and who starts at Spring Hill.
So we'll know where to go.
You'll know where to go, exactly.
So Dr. Marzak will tell us where to go.
In a nice way. I like the way you said that.
Okay, thank you all for being here and for your input and all that, and especially thank you, Skipper and Doug, for putting up with all of our whatever. So, thank you so much. This meeting's adjourned.